Hey friends, if you're here because you're on the fence about upgrading to a nice, expensive, maybe dare I say professional camera or lens, but you're not sure if it's a good idea or the right time for you, then you're in the right place. In this video, I want to try to make that decision easier for you and really give you the advice that I wish that I'd received when I was making that same decision. And I'm guessing that a lot of you are currently working with a smartphone or maybe an entry-level kit, maybe a Rebel or a kit lens or your parents' DSLR. You've probably begun discovering how much fun it is to be creative with these tools, but you see what others are able to do with a bit more monetary investment in some higher end cameras or lenses and probably think that, man, if I could just get the gear that they're using, then nothing would hold me back from really shining creatively. That's not necessarily true, by the way. Having the right tools for the right job can certainly be helpful, but other things do matter more. But regardless, it is scary to upgrade. Photo and video equipment is expensive, but if you never take that risk, maybe you'll never really know what you could have created at the top end. On the other hand, you know yourself, and sometimes it's hard to stick with a hobby or with something that you thought you'd be passionate about. Will this huge expense just end up in your closet or on eBay in a few months? The good news here is that I think I can help you with that decision. And by the way, shameless plug, I do offer memberships on this channel at varying levels, all of which can really allow me to help you in a more hands-on way, both with what to buy, but also what to do with it afterwards. So click the join button below to learn a bit more about that. But in the meantime, let's talk about this conundrum. For me, when I was looking at my dream camera and lens kit back maybe 5 years ago and seeing that $5,000 total price tag for the camera and the two lenses that I wanted at that time, it was a scary prospect. And we were in a much different position back then financially. We didn't really have the sort of expendable income to make that an easy decision. If I was going to get that gear, I needed to have a way for it to pay for itself. It was just a big commitment. But my other worry was that I just know myself, and there have been so many hobbies I thought for sure I was going to get into and that I ended up just sort of fizzling out of. Would photography, would videography just be another failed, expensive experiment? Fortunately, for me, it wasn't. Not only did me and my wife, Danae, stick with it, we fell in love with it, and we were able to eventually turn a profit from it also. At first, the hobby paid for itself, but over the last couple of years, it started to supplement our income, and that's been exciting. But that doesn't happen with everyone. There are plenty of people that I have watched pick up the hobby, invest thousands in it, and later just sort of fizzle out. But it's not just the gear. Some people have big dreams of becoming YouTube or Instagram creatives or just being wedding or corporate videographers or photographers. So they create these big plans along with these big purchases. They might hire a designer to create a logo. They might invest in a website, business cards. They make intro videos announcing sincere plans to do creative videos every Friday of every week. Or maybe they schedule trips to begin capturing Instagram stories and photos that they know will get them that influencer status that they want within a certain time frame. Or maybe they invest in expensive marketing plans to market their newly minted photo businesses. I've seen it time and time again, though, where someone will start down that road in any one of these endeavors, realize the sheer amount of work it is to realize the success that they want, not see the success they wanted or hoped for, and quit, or maybe they just lose interest. Now, to be clear, I'm not trying to talk you out of it at all. On the contrary, I think being a creator is incredible. It's amazing. It's wonderful. Creating photography and videography content has filled a hole in my heart that I didn't even know was there 5 years ago, and I can't imagine stepping aside from that. And I know many of you will catch fire with it, even if you don't become an instant success, even if you don't become instant rich and famous off it. If you're anything like me, you'll be okay with that because you'll have experienced joy in the journey. Some, not all, but some of you have that in you. But how do you know if that's you or if it's not? I have a litmus test for you of sorts. Some introspective questions I would like for you to answer for yourself that will help determine the likelihood of you sticking with the sport, as it were. I'd really like to cut to the heart of the matter, and for that to happen, you'll need to be very honest with yourself. You'll need to muscle aside those impulse buy emotions that you're feeling that are telling you to ignore logic and buy that new toy. Set aside the shiny object syndrome Smart-Drome for just a moment and really ponder these questions. First question, if you knew that investing in that gear and those plans that you have will lead to nothing more than creative satisfaction for yourself and nothing else, is that enough? Can you find joy in the creation process in and of itself for its own sake? Or does your metric for success rely on views, subscribers, likes, dollar signs, or regularly occurring professional page shoots? If you can't say yes to that, if you can't say that even if none of those other things happened, you'd still just be thrilled to be able to create content for the love of creating content and for no other reason, then maybe the expensive purchase will end up being less of a vehicle for creative fulfillment and more of a constant, bitter reminder of the lack of success that you thought you might get. If shattered dreams become the reality, will that camera just become a physical manifestation of the failure? If so, you'll be quick to want to hide that tool away in a closet or sell it off. I'm not saying you will for sure fail, of course not, but if you did, is it okay? Is the creation process itself enough? And that leads me to my second question in my litmus test for you. Is photography, videography, content creation, is it what you think about when you don't have anything else to think about? Do you find yourself at your day job with your mind constantly drifting back to your weekend or your evening plans to head out and shoot? Do creative ideas keep you up at night or cause you to wake up scrambling for a pen and paper or a phone to get that idea you had down? If not, if photography is something more of a side interest that you think you might enjoy doing, it's an indication that the camera will remain probably hidden away most of the time, only to show up on birthdays, special occasions, vacations, and even then, probably just as a reminder that you never really did take the time to master it, and that maybe you'd just be better off taking those shots with your phone. But if creating content is a preoccupation or even an obsession, that's a really good argument for making the plunge. My last litmus test question is probably the hardest because it's the one that takes patience. But it's now the most important question that I ask people who say they want to create YouTube channels or go to photography school, for instance. What often happens is someone will tell me that they want to create a channel, as an example, and they are totally gung-ho about it. And even when they have answered my first two questions in the affirmative, yes, I know I could fail, but yes, I think it will be fulfilling, and yes, I can't stop thinking about this idea that I have, what I say to them is, how long have you been preoccupied with that idea? How long have you felt this driving urge to create more and in a higher caliber way? Has it only been a few days? Has it been a week? Has it been months? And what other efforts have you put forward aside from buying expensive gear? Have you done other things to get you towards that goal? What I've learned about creatives who stick with it, who aren't just these flash in the pans type, and what I've learned about myself is that if I'm still having the dream, still obsessing over the idea months and weeks after I first had it, then it's a really good indication that I'll still have to drive to see it through long term. Let me give you an example. A couple years ago, I had a startup business idea, one that I felt destined would succeed. And to be clear, I still think this is a killer idea that someone, not me, but someone else could do, and that it could be really successful. But at the time I had this idea, it was like a bolt of inspiration, and I was so impressed with my own idea that I ran and told Danae, I told my parents and friends. I was ready to quit everything and just dedicate myself to making this dream, this idea, a reality. And within a few days, I had invested some money, created some plans, reached out to some big potential partners. I was making a big deal out of this idea, but then a week went by, nothing had really changed with the idea. Like, I still knew it was a good idea, and I even had some of those people come back saying, yeah, that's great, let's explore this. But there's only one problem, one critical component that had changed, and it was me, it was my heart. I just didn't care. A week after I had this brilliant idea, I had lost all drive and all interest because it started to get hard. And the weight of what I was signing myself up for was larger than the escape velocity that the initial idea or dream had. I just wasn't passionate enough. Where was my head instead? It was deciding on my next YouTube video, you know, the non-smart business decision. But that's where my heart was and my head, and I've just found that it's hard to force those things. I know people who can do that, who can have the discipline to have logic in their head and their reasoning lead their heart. But for creative types like you and me, it's harder for us. We have to have the passion, and it has to sustain us through all those challenges. So to reiterate, the third and last litmus test question, if you have that passion and you feel it, that urge to create, sit on it, start down the path and do everything else that doesn't require a huge monetary investment, and see if you're still interested, if you're still passionate when all that work starts to add up and you start to realize all the things that you have to do to make that a reality. Do you still have that drive after weeks of planning and pondering? Are you still making plans? I think you'll find either one of two things will have happened. Your drive will have diminished. You may still really want the camera, but don't confuse that shiny new toy syndrome with the creative drive. If the urge to create, the big plans, the ideas, if they have diminished, that's a strong indication that maybe this isn't such a good idea. On the other hand, with ideas I've had that have grown, that have succeeded, like this YouTube channel, which granted, it's a modest channel as far as channels go, but I consider it absolutely a success in many ways. But it's been hard work, it's been a slog. But when I sat and I waited on this idea, the urge, the urgency, the creative drive, it grew, it built. It was like a dam that exploded. At every point I had to bring forth expenses or great effort to unlock that next level of creativity. Is that you? If so, my friend, then jump on it. Dive in. It's worth the expense to have the creative tools that allow you to capture your vision and that don't get in your way. For us who are driven to create, I've never met a single one who has regretted buying expensive gear which has helped them in their craft. I don't regret a single lens, a single memory card, a single camera body purchase that I've spent a lot of money on that has helped me in my creativity. The only problem is when people buy that and then don't use it. But that's all I can offer you, at least in this format. I'd love to talk with you and explore some options. And if you're interested in that, you can check out my mentorship opportunity along with the other membership levels below, like I mentioned. But either way, remember to do good with your camera, and we will talk to you again real soon.